Good morning, this is Jim's Little Boat. I, of course, am Jim. Today I'd like to talk to you about boats and what they cost, specifically Catalina 22s, and what it's going to cost you to get into a nice used 22. Before we start, I'll kind of show you a couple things about this boat to remind you, and then we'll go in the shop where it's more comfortable. So just to remind you what you're talking about, my little 22 is a 1977. It's mechanically perfect as a 42-year-old boat can get. Everything on this boat and trailer works correctly, but the boat is 40 years plus old, and it just doesn't look as nice as a brand new boat, but it works as well as a brand new boat. If I changed out the standing rigging and the spreaders, which I'm going to do next year, this would be a new boat. It just needs paint. Then it would be a better than new boat. Today we're not going to talk about things like the stairs or the shed or all the other things in the shop like the jack for lifting the keel. We're just going to talk about what a boat costs. But it's cold, so I'm going in the shop. So before we begin, a couple of tips. Things you need to know before you even think about buying a boat. First, a boat is not an investment. No matter what you do, you're going to walk away losing money on this. And if you're lucky, it'll just be your heirs. But you will not make any money on a boat, and you'll be very lucky to get 40% of what you got into it when you sell it. What's this one say? Don't buy a boat until you know how to sail. I can't tell you over the years how many people I've known who bought a boat, I'm going to learn how to sail, went sailing 3 times and discovered it's expensive, it's slow, it's cold, it's hard work. So learn how to sail before you spend a whole bunch of money on a boat. So how can you do that? You can rent a boat, get somebody to teach you, borrow a friend's boat, and the best possible solution is join a boat club. We've got one up in Tacoma. We don't have one in Olympia right now, but you can pay a fee, join the club, learn to sail, and find out if you really like it. And frankly, this is the most affordable way to own a boat. It's not your boat. You can't modify it and tinker with it, and they're always very basic and bare bones kinds of boats. But lots of people rent airplanes and join airplane clubs just because it's the cheap way to do it. All right, let's talk about what kind of boat you're going to buy. Truth of the matter is, there's a zillion boats out there. They made way too many of them in the 1970s. They're really good boats, and they lasted way too long. There's lots of value out there. In the end, you're going to end up buying a Catalina 22. Why? Because there's lots of them. Some of them are really great. Some of them have been sitting in barns for 40 years. And you can fix them. You can buy parts. All the others, as much as I love the San Juan 21, hard to get parts for that boat. You have to make them. Remember this. There's nothing more expensive than a free boat. You're going to get about what you pay for the boat. And when you buy a used boat, you're going to get a better value than a new boat because most of the stuff that you're going to need is already there. Anchors, radios, cushions, life jackets, and all of that sort of thing. So let's talk exact dollars. What's a boat going to cost you? Let's use mine for example. Bootstrap cost me $4,000. The tax was $400. Title, license, and so on. So I was $46.20 into that boat when I brought it home. A lot of people forget about the taxes. Depends on the state you're in, but that's going to be your upfront cost. And I will say it was a saleable boat at the moment I bought it. And the reason I paid more than I should have, $4,000, boats like that go for about $2,600 around here. The owner had just redone the keel, and I'd done a lot of research on Catalina 22s. So I know that dropping the keel and fairing it all out and all that sort of thing was going to take a lot of money and time I didn't want to spend. I wanted to go sailing. So he had done all that, and he had put new tires on the trailer. And I also know that the cost of buying the boat is pretty much the smallest cost. So I went ahead and gave him the $4,000. We'll do a little jump cut here. We had to fix up the trailer. And the trailer needed new tires, not because they were worn out, but because they were 14 years old, needed new bearings. I painted the whole thing. I didn't include that in the cost. And what else went into that trailer? Oh, lights and wiring. You're going to do the lights about every 3 or 4 years anyway. So I was into it. over $1,000 for the trailer. Oh, and by the way, a swap. It had a crappy powerboat trailer. Brought it home, sold it for $600, and bought an actual Catalina trailer for about $1,000. But again, it's needed tires. So bootstrap, the way you see it sitting in the driveway, I'm into that thing about $5,700, maybe $5,800. So that's kind of the upfront cost to acquire the boat. But then you have to fix it up. You have to make it your boat. So you can get a boat for somewhere between $1,600 and $4,000, or you can spend $15,000 if you want to. The deal is, the more you spend up front, the less you should have to spend on the back end to start fixing it up. But we can talk about my boat specifically. So all in, ready to tow and sail, I had about $6,000 into the boat. But I did some upgrades. I got a jib, I got a new engine, and I got the rudder. And I have to tell you, as much as I love that Sail Pro engine, putting a new Ruddercraft rudder on that boat made an entirely different boat. It turned it in from a slow-moving, slow-tacking boat that really wants to claw its way to windward. That rudder is worth every penny of the $1,000 Ruddercraft wants, especially if you like to sail. If you don't want to spend $1,000, never sail on a boat that has a Ruddercraft rudder, because you'll never be happy with anything else. All right. So at this point, I was about $9,000 into bootstrap. The sails were new. It sailed great. But there's all kinds of upgrades and fixes you need to do to your boat along the way, and I won't even bother to list them all. Mid-boom sheeting is a wonderful thing, because mostly you're single-handing the boat even when there's people in it. And the mid-boom sheeting allows you to sort of stand in the middle of the cockpit, control the main sheet and all the sheets that I've let out for the other sails and other things, and you're not stepping over people all the time. So I added all this stuff. And then I added some more stuff, because it's your boat and you want to go out there and you want to sail and you want it to be easy. So you're going to keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading as time and money permit. So that's the cost to get you into the boat and get it the way you want it. There are going to be some annual costs of owning a boat. You're going to have to register it every year. Every year plan on $200 worth of bottom paint. And in my case, moorage. You're going to enjoy a sailboat a lot more, at least I do, if it's in the water and I can say, weather looks nice today. I think I'll go down and get on the boat. So moorage is a big have-to expense for me. I just don't want to go to the trouble of launching the boat. I want to go out for 3 hours at dinner time and come back. Now, there's some other costs that you're going to run into. About every 5 to 10 years, you're going to have to take that bottom all the way down to the gel coat, or at least down to the barrier coat, and redo the whole thing. And that takes 200 sheets of sandpaper, 2 weeks of your life, and about $1,000 worth of paint. Excuse me, that's going to be a big expense. So right now, as I look at that boat, and I just redid the figures, I'm $12,000 into bootstrap. And it is mechanically perfect, but it definitely needs a paint job. I would be so lucky if I could get $6,000 at resale. If the motor's good and the rudder, and I find somebody who appreciates the fact that it's got pretty new sails, I might be able to score $6,000, but $5,000 is probably more likely the price it would sell for. If it were in Florida or Georgia, it would sell for less. So now I want to impress on you. There is no rational reason you should buy a boat. It is not an investment in money. It is only an investment in your soul. And when you finally get that boat and you experience the groove, which will be the subject of a different video, you will understand why people would spend $13,000 or $14,000 on an object that will only net them $3,000. Talk to you later.